The month of August was a really stressful and busy time for me, so I am thrilled that I still managed to finish a few pieces that I'm going to share with you right now. Hi, my name is Sarah, and if you're new here, my channel is all about sewing and styling a handmade wardrobe. If you're a returning viewer, thank you so much for coming back. I really appreciate it. This month was all about making some transitional items that I could wear at the end of summer, but also into the fall as the weather continues to cool down. I have a nice variety of pieces that I'm excited to show you, and I will be ranking them in the order of my least favorite to my most favorite. And this month, I don't have any refashions or repairs to share with you because what I did instead was at the very end of the month, I did a closet clean out and switched out my wardrobe from my summer to my fall wardrobe. And in the process, I got rid of a bunch of things. So I'm thinking about doing a separate video about the handmade pieces that I have culled from my wardrobe and my reasons behind it. Let me know if that's something that you would be interested in seeing, and I would be happy to film it for you. Now, just a quick technical note, I do film these segments throughout the month as I finish things, so the lighting will probably change, the sound quality might vary a little bit throughout the video, so I do apologize for the discrepancies. I'm not an expert at editing, unfortunately, but I do the best that I can. So I appreciate your patience, and I'm going to send you to the mix right now. This is the I Am Patterns Aime shirt. This is the third pattern in the I Am Myself collection. I have sewn up all three of those patterns that I purchased now, which makes me feel really proud of myself that I bought a pattern bundle and actually made all the patterns. I made a size 36, which is the size that corresponds to my measurements. The fabric that I used is a double gauze from Emma One Sock that I bought a couple of years ago. And this pattern has a ton of options, so I'm going to try to remember them all. I made the cropped view with the short sleeve. I did the smaller collar. It also comes with an option with a larger collar. I did the button band that is just grown onto the shirt. There's also a version where you can do a separate button band piece. I put one chest pocket on the left-hand side. I think there's also some different options for the back too, like you can do a pleat or not. And I think I did the one without the pleat. You'll be able to see in the cutaways. And then in terms of construction changes, I did do a few things a little bit different. For some reason in the instructions, they do not tell you to use the burrito method on the yoke, and that just didn't make any sense to me. So I went ahead and did the burrito method because I just feel like it's easier. They also have you do like a standard double fold hem, but it's only 3/4 of an inch, and because my fabric is a little bit on the bulky side and you have the bulk of the button band here, I felt like doing a double fold hem was going to be really hard to execute on this button band. So I went ahead and just serged the edge and then turned it in stitches with a little bit flatter, a little bit easier to sew. If I were to do it over again, I honestly think I would probably add a little bit more length to the top and then do a thicker hem because I feel like a cropped shirt like this could really benefit from a little bit more weight at the hem, but that's neither here nor there because I didn't do that this time. I did find the instructions easy to follow, and I felt like I got the intended result. Now, whether I like it or not is a different story. So my motivation for making this shirt is I really wanted to have a cropped button-up shirt. I don't have anything else like that in my closet. And I feel like having a cropped shirt for summer is just a little bit of a different look, a little bit more casual. And I wanted to try a silhouette that's a little bit more oversized because most of my shirts are kind of on the relaxed side rather than being really oversized. But now that I've actually done that, and like I said, I do think this fits the way that it was intended to, I kind of feel like it's just a little bit too much. Like it's really, really overwhelmingly big. And when I put it on, I don't feel comfortable in it, but I also don't hate it. I feel like I'm going to need to style it a few different ways, try out, like see how I feel in it before I make a final verdict. But sort of my initial reaction was just like, I don't like this. Now, one thing that I am thinking about doing that I think could improve this is I'm thinking about taking off this pocket. Now the pocket placement is exactly where it's supposed to be, but on me, I feel like it's either a little bit too low, like maybe it should be higher up on the chest, or it should be moved all the way down to the hem so it looks more like a regular jacket pocket almost. But where it is, it's just a little bit awkward. And because this double gauze is kind of a floppy fabric, The pocket wants to like sag in the middle, and I just feel like that makes it look more sloppy. So let me know what you think in the comments. I am seriously thinking about removing the pocket because I just don't think that it's really adding anything to this particular shirt. In general, I do like putting on the pockets because I feel like it's an added detail. But in this case, I feel like maybe it wasn't the right thing to do. Oh, there was one more construction change. So this is technically supposed to be a unisex pattern. So they tell you to put the buttonholes on the male side instead of the female side. I really don't know why they do that because obviously I'm a woman and I'm used to having my buttonholes on the right-hand side. And believe me, my husband is not going to be borrowing this shirt from me. So I went ahead and put the buttonholes on the right-hand side like I am used to. It's obviously not that hard to change it if that's what you want to do, but I really don't understand why they tell you to put them on the wrong side. Like, I don't know why they can't just have an instruction that's like, if you're a woman, put it on this side, and if you're a man, put it on this side. Anyway, I put it on the right-hand side. Another thing about this shirt that bothers me a little bit, and maybe it is like telling me that it's too oversized, is that it wants to keep falling forward. Like as I'm wearing it, the shoulder seams just kind of want to shift towards the front, and I constantly have to like move it and sit it back so that it's on my shoulders. I don't know if perhaps my issues could be fixed if I made it again by going down another size. But at this point, I feel pretty uncomfortable in this to the point where I don't have any desire to make another version of this right now, but it's just something to keep in mind for the future if I decide to change my mind. Now, having said all those things about the style and how I feel about it, I do have to say that it's pretty comfortable to wear. This double gauze is nice and light. It feels very flowy. There's obviously a lot of airflow in this, and so it is comfortable. I feel like even if I decide that this style is not for me and it's not something that I want to wear out of the house, I do think that I'll still get use out of this shirt just as loungewear because it is pretty darn comfortable. So maybe not my best shirt that I've ever made in my life, but I do think that it was a worthwhile experiment, and perhaps in the future I'll grow to love it. Only time will tell. I made this really beautiful silk slip skirt. The pattern that I used is a vintage McCalls pattern. It's 2255. I've made it once before, and I believe it was released in 2000, but it's no longer in print. I made View B, which is the long version, but it's just a simple slip skirt with no frills. Before cutting out the skirt, I had shortened it above the knee and below the knee, so a total of about 6 inches. And then after I sewed the skirt, I felt like I still needed to shorten it a little bit. Basically, it was hitting the ground. So I took off about another 2.5 inches and I did a 5/8 inch hem. Now, to be honest with you, I did not look at the instructions. It's a very simple construction and I wanted to use French seams, so I kind of just did my own thing. I also added a 2-inch elastic in the waist. I think the pattern calls for like a 3/4 inch elastic, but because my skirt was too long, I went ahead and did a thicker elastic, both because I just like the way that that feels and also in order to shorten the skirt a little bit more. The fabric that I used is an absolutely beautiful, stunningly gorgeous silk charmeuse from Minerva. It's from their exclusive range. I was incredibly lucky to receive this fabric for free in exchange for writing about it on their website. This print is just so beautiful. I love it so much, and I love the way that the skirt feels. I love the way that it swishes when you walk. It's absolutely amazing. Now, a quick note on pre-washing. I did pre-wash and dry this fabric in the dryer, just like I would pretty much almost any other fabric. You can wash silk in the machine if you're careful about it, and I think that it turned out really nice. Before cutting out my pattern, I did starch the fabric pretty heavily with Best Press to give it a little bit more body and make it easier to cut and sew. I did also let the hem drop for about a week before I finished it up. So this project took me 8 days from start to finish. I did the bulk of the work on the first day, and then I let it hang for several days. And then on the last day, I shortened it a little bit from the bottom and hemmed it. I have tried a lot of different methods for leveling out a hem on a bias cut garment, and I've never really settled on anything that works super great. So my hem might be a little bit wonky. I found it very difficult to not just level out the hem, but also shorten it. But honestly, because it's a long skirt, I don't really think that it's that noticeable. I don't think people are going to really be staring at my ankles too much. And really, I think the only thing that you see is that gorgeous print. You're not going to be looking at anything else. So for styling, I chose to keep it relatively casual, kind of like a summer's day sort of look. So I just wore a simple boxy t-shirt and some sandals. But there are just many different ways that you can wear a silk slip skirt, and I plan to keep this in my closet year round because in the wintertime, I love the way that slip skirts look with tights and knee-high boots underneath, and then with a thick, cozy sweater on top or a cardigan. So I'm absolutely thrilled to have this in my wardrobe. The colors are just so pretty, and I can't stop staring at it. And this one is absolutely a winner. For my Minerva brand ambassador project this month, I did a two-piece set, so I'm just going to talk about both pieces together. The fabric that I was gifted is a beautiful silk fabric. It's from their exclusive range. I absolutely love this print. I think that it is just so dark and romantic and gorgeous, and it looks beautiful on this silk fiber. Now, one thing to note about this fabric is that I did pre-wash and dry it like I do all of my fabrics. And this particular fabric did bleed a lot of dye in the wash. I always put color catchers in the washing machine when I pre-wash my fabrics. And this particular one, I think I put in like 4 different color catchers and they were all completely saturated with dye. So do be warned that if you want to pre-wash this fabric, that to expect a lot of dye leakage. But in my experience, that's actually fairly normal for silk, so I don't think it's a defect or anything, but it's just something to keep in mind. Now, just like with my slip skirt, I did starch this fabric before cutting it out, and it made it much more stable and easy to work with. The 2 patterns that I used for the set, the top is the AM Patterns Valerie top, and I made a dress out of this last month, so this is the top version. And then for the pants, I went with my old reliable, the Papercut Patterns Tula pants. Now, because I've sewn both of these patterns before, they were pretty straightforward and easy to put together. I didn't really have too many issues except for a couple things that I will talk about. It's really hard for me to put a gauge on how long it took me to sew these pieces because I was very, very busy with work in the month of August. So there were many days that I put these aside and didn't work on them. But just to give you a rough estimate, if I were actually cutting these out and sewing them start to finish, it wouldn't take that long to make either piece, probably just like 1 or 2 days for each one. Now for the top, I made the size 36. Didn't make any fit changes from the last time that I made the pattern. I do still think that the darts are maybe a little bit high. I could probably stand to move them down like 1/4 of an inch, 3/8 of an inch, something like that, but it's not really that noticeable. I went ahead and interfaced the straps just like I did the last time, and I really like doing that because it just makes it a lot more stable, and I feel like these are really strong and they're not going to break on me. This time around, because there's no center front or center back seam on the cami version, for the facings to keep them in place, I went ahead and stitched in the ditch on the side seams, and I also did just a little bit of tacking in the bust dart seam, just so that the facing won't move around. Now this pattern is very similar to the True by Us Ogden cami, but I think I actually like this one better. It fits me a little bit better than the Ogden does, and also I'm not a big fan of the half lining on the Ogden, because I feel like often you can end up seeing that half lining underneath the fabric, whereas this is more of like a standard regular facing, and I just think it's less noticeable. This top is plenty long enough to tuck in. I'll pull it out real quick so you can see what the length is. I think that it's really nice. I didn't alter the length in any way, and I think it's perfect for tucking it in. Now for the pants, I went with a pattern that I've been using for many years now. I think it's a base size 2, and then I made some alterations from there. I did go ahead and add the pockets. I added grommets instead of buttonholes for the drawstring, and I was originally going to make the fabric drawstring instead of this twill tape, but in my opinion, the instructions tell you to make it just way too narrow. And even with my loop turner, I just could not get the fabric to turn, and it was fraying like crazy. And I was trying to do this for probably about 10 minutes, and it just wasn't working, and it was very frustrating. So to save myself some irritation, I just went ahead and substituted this gray twill tape instead. If I ever did want to make the fabric drawstring, I would just take a narrower seam allowance so that the string would be a little bit wider and easier to turn. Other than that, I didn't have any issues putting these together. I do think I made a slight alteration from the last time that I made it. Originally, I had taken a little bit off of the center back length, and it was a little bit too much, so I was kind of getting a wedgie. So I ended up adding just a smidge of length to the center back so that it's nice and even all the way around, and it's very comfortable to wear. This fabric just feels absolutely liquidy and gorgeous and soft and smooth against the skin. It's so nice. My motivation for making this set was actually when I did my Nordstrom anniversary sale video. There was a pair of satin pants that I was really inspired to make something like that for the winter time. I think that it would be a really interesting look, something that I've never tried before. And then I also just really liked the idea of the matching set. It kind of has like that faux jumpsuit look. The top I will probably wear layered up like in the early fall, and of course I can wear it in the summer. I probably will put it away for winter though because it's not really warm enough. But the pants I do intend on keeping out and wearing it for the winter, and I'll just wear like leggings or tights underneath for an extra layer of warmth. I'm really excited to try to style up these pants with like a cozy sweater or a cardigan. I just think it's going to look really nice and luxe. So I'm super thrilled with how this set came out. It's just so nice to wear, and part of me wants to just wear it as pajamas. But I think at least at first, I'll probably try to save it and wear it out. And then if for some reason I don't end up wearing it out, then I might end up converting it to the most luxurious pajamas of all time. We'll just have to see how it goes. Thank you so much for watching. And if you enjoyed this video, I would appreciate it so much if you'd give me a thumbs up. It really helps my channel grow. I'm going to put up the playlist of all of the makes that I completed in the year of 2024, just in case you missed any and you want to check them out.